Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to B2B Energy's Toolbox Tips. My name's Paul Webb. I'm the founder of B2B Energy, and I'm also your host. And this week, we're going to be focusing on the motorized control panel, which you will find in a typical plant room, or you could call it a control panel. And the area I'm going to focus on is probably one of my favorites when it comes to going into a plant room, because the first thing I will head for will be that panel, and I'll be looking to see whether those handoff control switches have been put to hand. And I'm going to explain exactly what I mean by that throughout this presentation.
Toolbox tip number 4, the motorized control center. Now, you may not know it as the motorized control center, but you may know it as the control panel. But it's going to be the control panel itself that will locally control or remotely control pieces of plant within your building. Now, that may be pumps, that may be air conditioning systems, air handling unit, various different items of equipment within your building that will be associated to maybe a BMS control strategy, a time clock, or whatever the means of control it is. So what would happen is that control panel will be controlling this piece of equipment via a time schedule. And it could look typically like this. Now, what I train people to do, specifically the staff on site, is when they look at these control panels, is to look to see the position on those switches, to see whether they're all facing in one direction, and then focus on one of them to see whether the one direction is actually the correct direction. And you can see from this particular control panel that they're all facing towards the right position, and I can tell you they're all actually in the correct position of auto. Now we're going to focus on one of those particular switches now. So here you go, this is pump number 2, and you can see that there is 3 positions for this switch to be switched to, and you can see as well that it's actually pointing in the hand position. Now that is in fact wrong. We don't expect that to be in that position, and the only reason why that could be in that position, we will explain why. Now, ideally, we need to be seeing that switch either in the off position or in the auto position. If it's in the off position, obviously it won't be running. If it's in the auto position, it's going to be focusing on the time schedule. So as the time schedule brings that on and off, it will then bring that pump on and off with that. And then if it's in the hand position, it's never going to go on and off. It's going to stay on throughout the day for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every single day of the year, unless someone goes and corrects that switch. So this could be increasing the building's kilowatt hour consumption within the region of 15 to 20%, and that is considerable amounts of energy that is actually being wasted because we don't need that energy being used. So we would ask the question here as why is that particular switch being put into that position? Well, it could be for various different reasons, and we've got 6 points here that we've picked up. First of all, the maintenance team could have put it in the plant in hand and actually forgotten to put it back again. It's very simple. We could have had a control issue with the building management system, and the plant has been put into hand just to ensure that it runs. There could be a BMS fault and a problem with the BMS, or the time clock could be incorrect regarding the operation of that particular piece of equipment. An interesting one here is that the BMS time clock is incorrect, or the time zones have been set up correctly. And we could be in a position where we've had British summertime, where that's changed and no one's changed the clock, so the plant isn't running in line to what the building requires. And lastly, what could have happened is that the plant maybe have required later on in the evening or later on in the day for a function or an event. So what could have happened is someone could have extended that plant via that switch and it been forgotten. And I've seen this happen many of time. We can report this to the maintenance manager or the person responsible for that property. And then once we've got permission, we then need to switch that control switch back into auto. And then we've got two variations here that could possibly happen. So if the plant stays running, that's perfect. We then need to then check the time zones and monitor that system to make sure that that pump or the piece of equipment maintains running throughout the period we require. If it doesn't run, we then probably have an issue. We need to call out a BMS expert or review the control system or maybe check the time clock. So there's two different variations that could happen there regarding if we put that back into auto, whether it runs or it doesn't run.
Thank you for watching this video, and thank you for following the Toolbox Tips. If you're not following Toolbox Tips now, please subscribe below. There is a link. We're more than happy to hear your comments, and we'd like you to give us some more direction. What do you want to know more about regarding energy and energy management? Do not miss any of these Toolbox Tips to help you manage your third largest expense. My name is Paul Webb, and please be safe in these times, you and your family.